But the good news is that there is the truth of God's word. The truth of God's word tells us is that memories and emotions don't just go away, but these wounds can be healed. I think about a time in my life about 20 years ago when I found myself in a very dark place in my life. I was angry. I was deeply offended by things that had happened to me that I did not bring onto myself, but it didn't matter because it happened anyway. And people brought it to me and they put it on my feet and said, here, this is yours. You're going to have to deal with it. I remember how cynical I became of people, but worse, of God. And how jaded I was on a daily basis. I was dealing with these issues and I was resentful in my life, and I began to question God on a daily basis. And this went on for the good part of a year. And for this year, every single conversation, I tell you, almost 100% of them, all wound up to this offense that I was dealing with. Whether I said it out loud or I just kept it to myself, but every conversation I could find a way to get back to the cynicism, to the jaded, to the resent, to the bitter root, to the anger. Oh, it was deep set. And you know what the sad part of it is? I felt really justified in doing it. Oh, I didn't do anything wrong here. They did this to me. And I felt extremely justified. Oh, I was in my corner, and I was in my corner strong. Oh, I didn't do this. They did it to me. But what I found is that I was the one who was rotting on the inside. I was the one who was carrying it, and it was a heavy load. But it took me a while to recognize how heavy that load truly was. And I had bought into that first lie that things won't change. It's just the way it is. And I had failed to recognize that God wanted to change this story about my life. This is not how I wanted you to become, Craig. This is not what I wanted to happen as you went through life and you would run into these people and they would lay these offenses at your feet. This is not how I wanted you to remain. I recognize that it's a bump. I recognize you got knocked down, but you are meant to stand firm on ground that you and I have already taken. And that's not where I was at all. And I found myself in a very dark place. But one day, the one thing that I kept doing was praying. Now, I guess you could call it praying, because really what I did was just complained for the entire time that I was with God. Man, that person, and that person. Oh, and I can't believe that and I don't know this and this. And that was pretty much what my prayer. Now, I know this never happened to you at all, but I just want you to know that it can happen, and it did happen to me. Is there any one person in this whole place that understands what I'm talking about? Okay. Well, there are a few. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't feel so alone anymore. And so as I kept having these times in the chair, I remember one day God's Spirit just spoke to me, and when he did, it just laid out where I was really at. And he showed me how rotten my heart had really become. And he showed what the effects of all this had really been. And you know what? I'd already lost a lot, but I had more that I could lose. I didn't want to lose that. You may be here today and you're saying, you know what? I recognize I have already lost a lot. There's a lot more to lose. Trust me. There's a lot more to lose.